Jake Morrison pushed his helmet back and wiped sweat from his forehead as he looked at the massive alien ship floating in the darkness of space. The vessel was 3 times bigger than his own salvage ship and looked like nothing he had ever seen before. Strange purple lights flickered along its hull like dying fireflies. His team had found it drifting near the outer colonies 2 days ago, and Jake knew this could be the biggest find of his career. "Captain, the ship seems empty, but we are picking up some kind of energy readings from the lower decks," said Pete Collins, his second in command, through the radio. Pete was already aboard, with half the crew looking for anything valuable they could take back to sell. Jake grabbed his tools and jumped across the gap between the ships. The alien vessel felt different the moment his boots touched the deck. The walls seemed to pulse with a faint light, and the air felt thick like breathing through water. Everything was made from some kind of living metal that responded to his touch by glowing brighter. He followed the corridor down toward where Pete had gone. The walls were covered in symbols that looked like they were burned into the metal. Jake had seen alien writing before, but this was different. These symbols seemed to move when he was not looking directly at them. "Pete, where are you?" Jake called into his radio. "Down here, Captain. You need to see this. We found something big." Jake followed Pete's voice through a maze of corridors until he reached a large room filled with strange machines. His crew was gathered around something in the center, but Jake could not see what it was from where he stood. "What did you find?" Jake asked as he walked closer. "It looks like some kind of prison captain," said Maria Santos, the team's tech expert. She was kneeling next to what looked like a glass cage, but the glass was not normal glass. It moved like liquid, but stayed solid when touched. Jake looked inside the cage, and his heart stopped. There was a woman inside, but she was not human. Her skin was pale blue and seemed to glow faintly from within. She was thin, too thin, like she had not eaten in weeks. Her clothes were torn and dirty. But what shocked Jake the most were the metal bands around her wrists and ankles. They looked like shackles. "Is she alive?" Jake asked. Maria checked her scanner. "Yes, sir. She has a heartbeat, but it is very weak." The woman's eyes opened slowly and looked right at Jake. They were silver like polished metal, and they seemed to see right through him. She tried to speak, but only a whisper came out. "Don't touch anything until we know what we are dealing with," said Danny Wright, the team's security officer. Danny was always careful, maybe too careful, but he had kept them alive on many dangerous salvage runs. Jake ignored Danny and knelt down next to the cage. The woman looked at him with those silver eyes, and he could see she was afraid. She had been hurt badly. There were marks on her arms and face that looked like burns. "We should leave her and take what we can carry," Danny said. "This is not our problem, Captain." "She is a person, Danny," Jake said. "Look at her. Someone did this to her." Jake studied the cage, looking for a way to open it. The metal bands around the woman's arms and legs were connected to the cage by thin wires. Every few seconds, electricity would run through the wires, and the woman would shake in pain. "This is a torture device," Jake said angrily. "They were keeping her here as a prisoner." He found what looked like a control panel on the side of the cage. The symbols were the same as the ones on the walls, but these were glowing brighter. Jake had always been good with alien technology. He could usually figure out how things worked, even without knowing the language. "Captain, I really think we should go," Pete said nervously. "What if whoever did this comes back? Then we better hurry." Jake said as he worked on the control panel. It took him 20 minutes to figure out the right combination. The cage made a sound like breaking glass, and the front wall dissolved into nothing. The metal shackles around the woman's wrists and ankles opened and fell to the floor with a loud clang. The woman tried to sit up, but she was too weak. Jake caught her before she could fall and helped her lean against the wall. She was lighter than he expected, and her skin felt warm despite its blue color. "You are safe now," Jake said softly. "No one is going to hurt you anymore." The woman looked at him with confusion in her silver eyes. Then Jake said the words that would change everything. "You are free." The moment he said those words, the woman's entire body began to glow. Not the faint light he had seen before, but a brilliant golden light that filled the entire room. It was so bright that Jake and his team had to cover their eyes. The light pulsed like a heartbeat, getting brighter and brighter until Jake thought it might blind them all. Then suddenly the light faded and the woman collapsed in Jake's arms. She was unconscious, but she was breathing, and the terrible thin look was already starting to fade from her face. "What the hell was that?" Danny shouted. "I don't know," Jake said, holding the unconscious woman carefully. "But we are taking her with us." "Captain, that might not be a good idea," Maria said. "We don't know anything about her species. She could be dangerous." Jake looked down at the woman in his arms. Even unconscious, she looked peaceful for the first time since he had found her. Whatever that golden light had been, it was not dangerous. It had been beautiful. "She was a prisoner," Jake said firmly. "Someone was torturing her. We are not leaving her here." His crew knew better than to argue when Jake made up his mind. They helped him carry the woman back to their ship and put her in the medical bay. As they prepared to leave, Jake took one last look at the alien vessel. He wondered who had built that prison and why. He wondered what the woman had done to deserve such treatment. But most of all, he wondered about that golden light and why it had appeared when he told her she was free. The woman slept for 3 days straight, and Jake found himself checking on her every few hours. Dr. Lisa Hayes had done everything she could to help, but human medicine was not designed for alien biology. All they could do was keep her comfortable and wait for her to wake up on her own. "Her body temperature is stabilizing," Lisa said as she checked the monitors. "Whatever those metal bands were doing to her, they were slowly killing her. She is lucky you found her when you did." Jake sat in the chair next to the medical bed and watched the woman breathe. Her skin had changed from pale blue to a healthier, darker blue, and that faint inner light was getting stronger. Sometimes, when she was dreaming, her skin would pulse with soft colors like a rainbow. "Have you figured out what species she is?" Jake asked. "Nothing in our databases matches her biology," Lisa replied. "But I can tell you some interesting things. Her body produces its own light through special cells under her skin. It is like she has tiny stars living inside her, and her brain activity is off the charts. She might be more intelligent than any species we have ever met." On the morning of the 4th day, Jake was reading reports when he heard a soft sound from the medical bay. He rushed in to find the woman sitting up in bed, looking around with wide silver eyes. When she saw Jake, she moved back against the wall like a frightened animal. "It is okay," Jake said, gently holding up his hands to show he was not armed. "You are safe. Do you remember me?" The woman stared at him for a long minute. Then she spoke in a voice like music. "You freed me," she said in perfect English. "The golden light came when you said I was free?" Jake was surprised she could speak his language. "Yes, I freed you. My name is Jake. What is your name?" "I am Zara," she said. "I am Lumina." "Lumina," Jake repeated. "Is that your species?" Zara nodded. "We are the people of light. Or we were before the Korthit came." Over the next few hours, Zara told Jake her story. The Lumina had lived peacefully on their home world for thousands of years. They were beings of light and energy who used their natural glow to power their cities and ships. They had never known war or violence. Then the Korthik Empire found them. The Korthik were a cruel species that conquered other worlds and enslaved their people. When they discovered that Lumina could produce unlimited energy, they decided to harvest them like crops. "They took us from our families," Zara said quietly. Her skin dimmed with sadness. They put us in cages and used our light to power their war machines. I have been a slave for 10 years. Jake felt anger burning in his chest. That is horrible. How many of your people are still enslaved? All of them, Zara said. My world is gone. My family is gone. I thought I would die in that cage. But you didn't, Jake said. You are here now, and you are free. When Jake said the word free, Zara's skin began to glow again. Not as bright as before, but bright enough to light up the entire room. She looked at her hands in wonder. I had forgotten what it felt like, she whispered, to glow without paying. The Korthic machines stole our light and gave us nothing but suffering in return. Dr. Hayes came in to check on Zara and was amazed by what she saw. Zara's light was not just beautiful, it was functional. She could make it brighter or dimmer at will. She could change colors, from gold to blue to green to purple. She could even make patterns and shapes with the light. This is incredible, Lisa said. Your people could revolutionize energy production. No wonder the Korthic wanted to enslave you. Zara's light dimmed. That is why we can never be truly free. As long as other species know what we can do, they will want to use us. Not all species are like the Korthic, Jake said. Humans believe in freedom for everyone. Zara looked at him with those silver eyes. You say that now, but what happens when your leaders see what I can do? When they realize one Lumina could power an entire city? Jake was quiet for a moment. He knew Zara was right to be worried. Humans had not always been kind to those who were different. But he also knew that not all humans were the same. Some humans might try to use you, Jake admitted, but others will fight to protect your freedom. I will fight to protect your freedom. Zara's light grew brighter, and Jake felt something strange happen. For just a moment, he could feel what she was feeling. Gratitude and hope mixed with fear and sadness. It was like their emotions were connected somehow. What was that? Jake asked. I do not know, Zara said, looking as confused as Jake felt. That has never happened before. Over the next few days, Jake and Zara spent more time together. She told him about Lumina culture and their connection to light and energy. Jake told her about Earth and human history. He was honest about the bad things humans had done, but also told her about the good things. How humans had learned from their mistakes and tried to be better. Zara was fascinated by human emotions. Lumina felt things differently than humans did. Their emotions were connected to their light. When they were happy, they glowed brighter. When they were sad, their light dimmed. When they were angry, their light turned red. Humans are so complicated, Zara said as they sat in the ship's observation deck, looking out at the stars. You feel so many things at the same time. Love and fear, hope and doubt. How do you make decisions when your heart pulls you in different directions? We do our best. Jake said, sometimes we make mistakes, but we keep trying. Zara's light pulsed gently. I think that is what makes humans special. Other species I have met are more predictable. Korthic are always cruel. Vortani are always logical. But humans surprise me. Is that good or bad? Jake asked. Good, Zara said without hesitation. Very good. That night Jake lay in his bunk thinking about Zara and her people. He thought about the billions of Lumina who are still enslaved by the Korthic. He thought about the golden light that had filled the room when he told Zara she was free. He thought about the strange connection he had felt with her. His crew was getting nervous about having an alien aboard. Banny, in particular, kept suggesting they should drop Zara off at the nearest space station and be done with it. But Jake knew he could not do that. Zara trusted him, and he would not betray that trust. Besides, he was starting to care about her, in a way that had nothing to do with duty or honor. When she smiled, her whole body lit up like a star. When she laughed, it sounded like music. When she was sad, Jake felt sad too. He was falling in love with her, and that scared him more than any alien threat ever had. Jake was having breakfast with Zara when the ship's alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed on the walls, and his crew's voices filled the radio with urgent reports. Jake jumped up from his chair and ran to the bridge with Zara close behind him. "Captain, we have multiple ships approaching fast," Pete called out as Jake reached his command chair. "They are not Corthic, but they are not human either." Jake looked at the main screen and saw 6 ships unlike anything in human records. Were sleek and beautiful, like they had been grown instead of built. Soft light pulsed along their hulls in patterns that reminded Jake of heartbeats. "Those are luminous ships," Zara whispered. Her skin began to glow with excitement and fear. "But how did they find me?" "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the salvage ship Endeavor," Jake said into the radio. "Please identify yourselves." Response came immediately in a voice that sounded like Zara's, but deeper and more commanding. "Human vessel, this is Commander Lyrics of the Lumina Liberation Fleet. We are tracking a member of our species aboard your ship." "Prepare to be boarded," Zara gasped, and her light flared so bright that everyone on the bridge had to squint. "Lyrics," she whispered, "that is my brother. He is alive." Jake felt relief and worry at the same time. He was happy that Zara had found her family, but he was also afraid of losing her. The Lumina ships were clearly more advanced than his own vessel. If they wanted to take Zara by force, there was nothing he could do to stop them. "Commander Lyrics," Jake said carefully, "your sister is safe aboard my ship. She is free to leave with you whenever she chooses." "Sister," Lyrics's voice changed, becoming more emotional. "Zara, is that really you?" "It is me, brother," Zara said, stepping up to Jake's communication panel. Her voice shook with emotion. "Jake freed me from a Corthic prison ship. He saved my life." There was a long pause before Lyrics spoke again. "We will dock with your ship. Any hostile action will result in your destruction." "Understood," Jake said. "We will not resist." 20 minutes later, Jake stood in his ship's docking bay, watching as the Lumina vessel connected to his ship. The docking tube filled with soft golden light, and Jake could hear something like singing coming from the other side. The airlock opened, and 3 Lumina stepped through. Jake had thought Zara was beautiful, but these new arrivals took his breath away. They glowed brighter than Zara ever had, and their light seemed to pulse in harmony with each other. The one in front was clearly the leader. He was tall, and his skin was darker blue than Zara's. His silver eyes were hard like a warrior's. "I am Commander Lyrics," he said, walking straight to Zara. "Sister, I thought you were dead." Zara ran to her brother and threw her arms around him. Both of them blazed with light so bright that Jake had to look away. When the light faded, they were both crying tears that glowed like liquid starlight. "How did you find me?" Zara asked. "Every Lumina has a unique light signature," Lyrics explained. "We have been searching for survivors for years. Your signal appeared 3 days ago, stronger than it has ever been." Jake realized that must have been when Zara first glowed in response to being freed. Somehow that moment had sent out a signal that her people could detect across space. The other 2 Lumina approached Jake. One was an elderly female with intricate patterns of light moving across her skin. The other was a younger male who kept staring at Jake with suspicion. "I am Elder Nyara," the elderly female said. "This is Lieutenant Kale. We owe you a great debt, human. Freeing one of our people from Corthic slavery is an act of great courage." "Anyone would have done the same thing," Jake said. "No," Elder Nyara said firmly. "Most species fear the Corthic too much to interfere. You risked your life and the lives of your crew for a stranger. That is rare in this galaxy." Lieutenant Kale moved closer to Zara, and his expression grew shocked. "Elder, you need to see this. Look at her light patterns." Elder Nyara turned to examine Zara more closely. Her own light began to pulse in complex rhythms as she studied the younger Lumina. Suddenly she gasped and stepped back. "Impossible," she whispered. "What is it?" Lyrics demanded. "What is wrong with my sister?" Elder Nyara looked from Zara to Jake. And back again. "Nothing is wrong. Everything is exactly as it should be according to the ancient prophecies. Your sister has undergone the soul bonding." "The soul bonding is a myth," Lieutenant Kale protested. "It has not happened in over 1,000 years. Look at her light signature," Elder Nyara commanded. "See how it pulses in the pattern of two hearts, beating as one. See how it brightens when she looks at the human. This is the soul bonding beyond any doubt." Jake looked at Zara confused. "What is the soul bonding?" "It is an ancient Lumina tradition," Elder Nyara explained. "When a Lumina finds their perfect mate, their light changes to reflect the connection between their souls. It only happens with the deepest form of love. But I am human," Jake said. "How can I be mated to a Lumina? The prophecies speak of this," Elder Nyara said with growing excitement. "A stranger from the stars would free one of our people and in. Doing so would forge a bond that bridges species. You are the light bringer that our seers foretold." Zara looked at Jake with wonder in her silver eyes. "Is this why I felt your emotions? Why I glowed so brightly when you said I was free?" "I do not know," Jake said honestly. "All I know is that I care about you more than I have ever cared about anyone." Commander Lyrics stepped between them, his light turning red with anger. "This is madness. My sister cannot be mated to an alien. The Council of Lights will never accept this. The Council will have no choice," Elder Nyara said calmly. "The soul bonding cannot be broken once it has formed. And if the prophecies are true, this union will lead to the liberation of our people." "What prophecies?" Jake asked. Elder Nyara began to glow brighter as she spoke. "It is written that when the Lightbringer comes, our long exile will end. The bonds of slavery will be broken, and the children of light will be free to return home. Your people and ours will stand together against the darkness." Jake felt the weight of those words. He had not asked to be part of any prophecy. He had just wanted to help someone who was suffering. But looking at Zara's hopeful face, he knew he could not walk away now. "What happens next?" he asked. "You must come with us to our hidden sanctuary," Commander Lyrics said reluctantly. "The Council of Lights will decide your fate, and if they reject—" Elder Nyara smiled. "Then we will know the prophecies were wrong, but I do not think they were. The light does not lie, and your light burns brighter than any human I have ever seen." Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. Pete, Danny, Maria, and Lisa had been with him for years. They were more than employees, they were family. But he also looked at Zara, whose silver eyes held so much hope and love. "I will come," Jake said, "but my crew stays with my ship." "Agreed, Commander," Lyrics said, "but know this human. If you betray my sister or my people, I will kill you myself." Jake nodded. "I would expect nothing less." As the Lumina prepared to transfer Jake to their ship, Zara took his hand. Her touch sent waves of warmth through his body, and he could feel her emotions as clearly as his own. Fear and excitement, love and uncertainty, hope for a future neither of them had imagined. "Are you sure about this?" she asked quietly. Jake squeezed her glowing hand. "I have never been more sure of anything in my life." Together they walked toward the airlock and toward a destiny that would change both their species forever. The journey to the Lumina Sanctuary took 5 days through hyperspace routes that no human had ever traveled. Jake spent most of his time with Zara, learning about her people's culture and history. The Lumina ship was unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls were alive with flowing patterns of light, and the air itself seemed to glow softly. "Our ancestors built these ships to work with our natural abilities," Zara explained as they walked through corridors that pulsed with rainbow colors. Everything responds to our light. When we are happy, the ship feels lighter and faster. When we are sad, it moves more slowly. Jake could feel the ship's mood changing around them. When Zara laughed, the walls brightened, and when she was serious, they dimmed to a gentle blue. It was like being inside a living creature that shared the emotions of everyone aboard. On the fourth day, Jake met with Elder Nyara to learn more about the prophecies. She was ancient even by Lumina standards, and her light had patterns that Jake had never seen before. Complex spirals and geometric shapes moved across her skin like living artwork. The prophecies were written during the time of darkness, she explained as they sat in her meditation chamber. Our seers foresaw the coming of the Korthic centuries before they arrived. They also saw the coming of the Lightbringer, who would help us reclaim our freedom. What exactly do the prophecies say about me? Jake asked. Elder Nyara's light shifted to soft gold as she recited ancient words. From the void between stars will come one who walks in darkness, but carries light within. He will speak the words that break all chains. He will stand before the Council of Lights and prove his worth through sacrifice. And through his union with the Star Daughter, the children of light will rise again. Star Daughter? Jake repeated. That is Zara. Yes, the prophecies describe her exactly. One who glows brightest in the moment of freedom. One whose light calls across the void to gather the scattered tribes. Jake felt the weight of these ancient words, but also their hope. What if I fail the Council's tests? Then many of our people will remain slaves forever, Elder Nyara said simply. But I do not believe you will fail. I have watched you with Zara. You love her truly not because of what she can do, but because of who she is. That kind of love creates the strongest light of all. On the fifth day, they arrived at Luminara. Prime and Jake got his first look at a Lumina world. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Crystal cities rose from the surface like frozen music. Towers of pure light reached toward the sky, and bridges of solid energy connected floating platforms. The entire planet glowed with the combined light of millions of lumina. Welcome to our hidden sanctuary, Commander Lyric said as their ship approached the main city. No outsider has ever seen this place and lived to tell of it. Jake understood the threat, but he was too amazed to be afraid. As they landed, he could see lumina of all ages going about their daily lives. Children whose lights sparkled like fireworks. Adults whose steady glow powered great machines. Elders whose complex patterns told stories of ages past. But he also saw the sadness in their light. These were refugees living in exile. This was not their true home, and everyone knew it. The Council of Lights met in a great dome at the center of the city. Jake had expected a formal trial, but instead found himself in a vast garden filled with pools of liquid light. 12 lumina sat in a circle, their combined glow so bright that Jake had to squint to see them clearly. High Lumina Siren spoke for the Council. She was neither young nor old, and her light was pure white like starfire. Human, you stand accused of interfering in affairs that do not concern your species. You have bonded with one of our people without permission or understanding. Why should we not consider you a threat? Jake had prepared for this moment during the journey. He stood straight and spoke from his heart. I freed Zara because it was the right thing to do. I did not know about your customs or prophecies. I only knew that someone was suffering, and I had the power to help. And now that you do know, another council member asked, now that you understand what your actions have begun, what do you intend to do? I intend to help free your people, Jake said, without hesitation. Slavery is wrong, no matter who practices it. If humans and Lumina can work together, we can stop the Korthic. The council members spoke among themselves in their light language. Patterns of color flowed between them too fast for Jake to follow. Finally, High Lumina Siren spoke again. You speak of helping us, but words are easy. We will test your commitment through 3 trials. If you pass, you will be accepted as Zara's mate and as an ally to our people. If you fail, you will be returned to your ship and forbidden from ever contacting us again. Jake felt Zara's hand slip into his. Her light pulsed with worry and love. I accept your trials, he said. The first trial was physical. Jake had to prove he could survive in environments where Lumina lived and worked. They took him to the deep caves beneath the city, where the temperature was near freezing and the air was thin. Without his spacesuit, Jake would have died in minutes. But the Lumina who lived there had adapted their light to provide warmth and breathable atmosphere. Learn to work with our light, instructed the cave keeper, a stern Lumina whose glow was deep blue, or you will not survive. It took Jake hours to figure out how to sync his movements with the cave keeper's light patterns. When he finally succeeded, he could feel warmth flowing through his body and air filling his lungs. It was like learning to dance with living starlight. The second trial was mental. Jake had to solve complex puzzles that required understanding, Lumina logic and mathematics. Their number system was based on light wavelengths, and their geometry followed patterns that human minds found difficult to grasp. Think like light moves, advised his teacher, a young Lumina whose patterns shifted constantly as she worked. Not in straight lines, but in waves and curves. Jake struggled with this trial more than the first. Human thinking was linear and logical, while Lumina thinking was fluid and intuitive. But slowly he began to see the beauty in their way of understanding the universe. Math became music and logic became art. The third trial was emotional, and it was the hardest of all. Jake had to prove that his love for Zara was real by temporarily giving it up. The council used their combined light to block the soul bond between them. For 24 hours, Jake could not feel Zara's emotions or share his own with her. The separation was agony. Jake had not realized how much he had come to depend on their connection. Without it, he felt cold and alone, like part of his soul had been torn away. He could see Zara across the garden, but she might as well have been on another planet. Now you understand what our people feel when they are enslaved, High Luminous Siren said, as Jake struggled with the emptiness inside him. The Korthik do not just steal our light. They break our connections to each other and to ourselves. Could you endure this for years as our people have? Jake thought of the billions of Lumina still in Korthik cages. He thought of Zara as he had found her broken and alone. He thought of children who had never known freedom or love. Yes, he said firmly. I could endure anything if it meant freeing them. When the trials ended, the Council of Lights voted unanimously to accept Jake. The moment they restored his bond with Zara, he fell to his knees as waves of love and relief washed over him. She ran to him, and they held each other while their lights blazed together brighter than ever before. The prophecies have been fulfilled, High Luminous Siren announced to the gathered crowd. The Lightbringer has proven himself worthy. Let this liberation of our people begin. But Jake knew the real work was just starting. The trials had been the easy part. Now he had to help plan a war against the most powerful empire in the galaxy. He had to find a way to free billions of enslaved Lumina without getting them all killed in the process. As he held Zara close and felt her love flowing through their bond, Jake realized that he was no longer just a salvage captain looking for valuable scrap. He was a bridge between species. He was hope given form. He was the Lightbringer, and the galaxy would never be the same. The bonding ceremony took place at dawn, when both sons of Luminara Prime painted the sky in shades of gold and purple. Jake stood in the center of the great crystal amphitheater, wearing robes made from fiber that captured and reflected light. Thousands of Lumina had gathered to witness what their prophets had foretold for centuries. Zara approached from the other side of the amphitheater, and Jake's breath caught in his throat. She wore no clothing, but instead had painted her skin with patterns of pure light that moved and flowed like liquid starfire. Her silver eyes met his across the distance, and even without their bond, Jake could feel her love and joy. Today we witness the joining of two souls and two species, High Luminous Siren announced. Her voice carried across the amphitheater without need for amplification. Let the stars themselves bear witness to this union. Elder Nyara began the ancient ritual by calling upon the first lights that had given birth to the Luminant people. As she spoke, the assembled crowd began to glow in harmony, creating a symphony of light that rose toward the sky. Jake could feel the power building around him, like electricity before a storm. Zara reached Jake and took his hands. The moment their skin-touched light erupted from both of them. But this was different from anything Jake had experienced before. Instead of Zara's golden glow mixing with his normal human warmth, Jake found himself producing light of his own. Brilliant white radiance flowed from his skin in patterns that matched Zara's perfectly. The crowd gasped, and many fell to their knees. Even High Luminous Siren looked shocked. The prophecies spoke truly, she whispered. The Lightbringer carries the spark of our people within him. Jake stared at his glowing hands in wonder. How is this possible? Love finds a way, Elder Nyara said with tears of liquid starlight flowing down her cheeks. Your soul has learned to speak our language. The ceremony continued with vows spoken in the light language that Jake somehow understood perfectly. He promised to stand with Zara through darkness and illumination. She promised to share her light with him for all the days of their lives. When they kissed, the combined radiance of their union could be seen from orbit, but the celebration was brief. Even as Jake and Zara exchanged their final vows, Commander Lyrics was organizing the war effort. Intelligence reports had located 3 major Korthic slave facilities within striking distance of their hidden fleet. The time for action had come. We have been planning this operation for years, Lyrics explained as Jake studied holographic displays of the target installations. But we never had enough firepower to guarantee success. Your people's military technology, combined with our abilities, might give us the edge we need. Jake activated his communication link.